Hello, everybody. Welcome in. We'll give everyone a little bit to get settled. While you're here, if you're dropping in, I want to know how long you have been on campus. A couple years, couple months, couple weeks. Let me know. We'd love to hear from you guys. Put them in the chat, put them in wherever you need to. I want to know how long you guys have been on campus. Any and all experience is welcome. Lisa, 3.5 years. Love it. 10-7. Mallory winning the race so far. Welcome in, welcome in. We're asking everybody how long they've had been on campus for. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Whether that's consecutive years or just all across everywhere, wherever you've been, let us know. We are talking Giving Day prep today. We're still going to give everyone another minute or so to come on in and get settled. We appreciate you guys coming in and joining us today. Wendy and Carmen, 15 years, taking the title down. Love to see it. All right. 2:02, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Judy, the question was how long you've been on campus for, whether that's consecutive years or all at once. Let me know. All right. Great. We love to see it. All right. We are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Cadence Campus Live. For those of you new, what it is, the former Cadence Campus newsletter would bring all of you guys some content highlights, product sneak peeks, student engagement tips, and then every couple of months, our Cadence boot camps would focus on some hot topics across campus. So we wanted a way where we could bring all of that together in one engaging, fun atmosphere. And here we are with Cadence Campus Live, a 30-minute webinar bringing you a little series. And it's going to be a chance to hang out with some people from myself, as well as others behind the scenes at Mongoose, and then some other Cadence users so that you can kind of get the tips and tricks that you need in order to meet all of your goals and stuff like that. So joining me today, myself, my host, me, and then Morgan McSweeney, our account executive here at Mongoose. And then from the LSU Foundation, we have Sean Gilbert, who is the Director of Annual Giving, and MaryJulia MJ Klug, our Annual Giving Strategist. Morgan, do you want to introduce yourself real quick to everybody who might not know you?
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Thanks for joining, everybody. My name is Morgan McSweeney. On the sales team here at Mongoose. I've been here about 1.5 years, but in my former life, in my 15-year career, was on the advancement space. So I was an athletics advancement officer, a couple schools out in California, including San Diego State for 10 years, overseeing the annual fund on the athletic side there, and was a major gift officer and principal gift officer, and then finished out most recently at University of Minnesota, heading up their athletics annual fund and as a major gift officer as well. So excited to talk about Giving Day, excited to partner with Sean and MaryJulia. So fun fact, MJ and Sean were my very first sale here at Mongoose. So I have a special place in my heart to always work with them all the time. So excited to chat and learn from them and learn from you all.
Thanks, Morgan. Sean, let everyone know who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah. As Gary said, Sean Gilbert. I'm the Director of Annual Giving at the LSU Foundation. I've been here in this role for about 2.5 years now. Prior to this, I've been in the industry for about 10 years, mostly in museums and the nonprofit fundraising space as well. I think I saw a few people in the chat that I recognize, so it's great to see you all, and happy to talk Giving Days.
Thanks, Sean. MJ, please chime in.
Yes, so like they said, MaryJulia or MJ. MJ is always a little bit easier to remember. And I'm also recognizing some names, so hello. And I cannot wait to learn from all of y'all today because I've only been in this role about 2 years, but I was a student caller before the pandemic happened. So I do have that experience under my belt. And yeah, thank y'all so much for having us.
Awesome. we're gonna get right into it. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so that we can get a little cozier. My first question though is to you, Sean. Our last Cadence Campus Live episode talked about data. I kind of want to close that loop or reopen the loop, I guess you would say. So talk about how you use data to help with your fundraising and how that can help with maybe some personalization.
Yeah, totally. So with giving days, much like our annual giving strategy, it's all about, personalization and using that data in the strategy. The more that we can personalize our message to the donors, the more likely they are to engage and give. With some specific examples that come to mind, using Mongoose this past giving day, we do everything one-to-one. So that meaning, like a member of our Marcom team is going to be on the other end whenever we send a text out. So last year's giving day, we were able to pull in some additional fields, including prospect assignment, last gift, last fund, among a whole host of others. And that way we were able to really keep the conversation going. We were able to have like a seamless transition from like whenever we sent our text out to be able to connect that to the assigned prospect. Ended up closing a number of major gifts on giving day, and it was a huge win. We also have a couple of wrinkles in the works for this year as well. We're going to be carving out a couple of segments, kind of really honing in and personalizing the ask to states that we normally have lower participation from. So we're specifically, calling out our South Dakotas. Love South Dakota, but we need more South Dakota donors for the LSU Foundation. So, let's make it happen. We're also, another thing we're doing this year is we're partnering with all of our LSU properties. And we've offered a couple of unique experiences for those campuses to join us. One of those is a Give Early text campaign that we're going to be running. So we invited anybody who wanted to participate, just let us know. And, myself, MaryJulia, and the rest of our Marcom team would kind of be running that Give Early campaign. We'll have a unique URL going to the Giving Day platform for each of the pages for these campuses.
That's great. We love to hear that you're using data in the right way to make those personalizations go a little further. MJ, we talked about the personalization. So we want to be able to use that to build those relationships. Can you talk about how texting specifically helps build those relationships with your donors?
Yeah, so as Sean mentioned, like every single text that comes from our team is answered by me, Sean, or another person from the annual giving team. And or I'm sorry, we're the annual giving team from the Marcom team. And every single time they'll get a response in real time within 24 hours. And one thing that I want to point out is this was not for Giving Day, but we did send a text to our graduates of the last decade, just to ask them what their favorite part about being on campus was. Was it their major? Was it extracurriculars? Was it the people they met? And we got so many good responses from that. And my little claim to fame is that I don't know if y'all know this, but we did just win a women's basketball championship. So I got to text back and forth with some of the players, which was always fun. Not too much, but I mean, if I could have given them my phone number and went and got coffee, I would have. And then another thing, like Sean mentioned, is that through these texts, whenever they see an actual person is on the other side and you start rapport, that will turn into major gifts down the line. So Sean and I are able to start that conversation and then connect them with a prospect manager or whoever in their college that they have an affinity for and get them moving down the pipeline.
Awesome. MJ, we talked about in our planning meeting, because of those relationships that you were kind of able to build, you had a really great like fiscal year-end campaign kind of and like come through pretty big for you guys. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sean, you know more about the details about this if you'd be able to take this one.
Yeah, totally. So, this was a fiscal year-end campaign. We put this together, reaching out to, donors who've given, year over year. And we reached out to, one of our constituents out in California, donor for years, always, 500 or below donor, but wanted to start, consider, giving a major gift. So we worked with her, went back and forth, and we were able to close a $200,000 gift, at the very end of it. But because of the texting and the personalization and being able to open that conversation, we were able to really get some really great things going, and we were able to hand that conversation off to a assigned gift officer. She wasn't assigned at the time, but we were able to immediately move her from annual giving donor all the way up to major gift donor, just right there.
That's great. That's a great targeted approach. We really like seeing that. Morgan, coming over to you. Earlier in our planning meeting, we talked about being able to set goals and expectations pretty early. So kind of just give your thoughts overall about making sure that you set those goals and what they are for your giving day.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be a part of 15 giving days in my career, and it was at very different institutions. One was a small private, a alma mater in California. One was a large public, and then an even larger public in a Big Ten school. So like all different facets and all different priorities. And I think there's really kind of two kind of success paths to success for it. And it's being really realistic, I think, with what your end goal is for your division. So MJ and Sean and their team most likely there's a very specific monetary goal that they have budgeted into their plan for the year for giving day, right? Whether it's for a certain kind of fund, a certain endowment, a certain plan giving, whatever it may be. But that's very specific to them. But your team may have something different. Like if you at San Diego State, the library dominated giving day every single year. Nobody could touch them. Not school business, not engineering, not athletics, nothing. Because that was their sole day of fundraising was that. Like they had a numerical number that was dollar value, and they had all their donors lined up ahead of time, like Sean did with his previous donor, and it was very structured, and they had a path to success that was very well defined, but they also had a clear realization of what their goal was. And I think you have to be mindful of what your team is. So the difference I always found between advancement teams and say alumni teams, everybody's participated in annual giving, day of giving, right? But what is the end goal? Is it a monetary number on the annual giving side? Or is it an engagement goal? Do you want to increase your participation number overall across the board with gifts, like a lot of alumni association focus kind of has? And that's the charge they had. That's the mission. Like it doesn't matter if it gets us $1 or $1,000. They want total bodies, right? They want more clicks. They want engagement. And so how do you structure your messages to really focus on what that end goal is? Like Sean and MJ's team, they have a very personalized segment, a very specific goal that they're trying to fundraise for. Their verbiage is different using Cadence, right? The ability to segment and the target audience that they're having. You're looking at a brighter spend, more engaged, more messaging. You want more eyeballs. You want participation to go up 10%. You don't have to worry about a dollar value goal. You can get into more of that storytelling, more of that conceptual. You want to bring them in, right? You want the big starry lights, the flashing sign, like the feel goods. And so I think being realistic as to what your goal is, and then allowing yourself to personalize that path towards that is going to be critical for your team's success in the giving day, because it takes a village to be successful, right? It takes your annual giving team, it takes your alumni association, it takes your Marcom squad, it takes your major gifts officers pushing out those asks to their own portfolio people. So I think everybody being in line with what the end goal is, whether it's monetary, visually, or participation wise, is super successful. And then it helps your whole external division kind of really have a successful day.
Right. I love the idea of setting those goals first so that you can kind of target your messaging around those. That's great. Sean, I'm coming back to you. Morgan mentioned kind of like donors versus dollars. Do you see kind of like the pros and cons of each, or can you kind of talk about like your strategies behind setting one versus the other or both?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something to always kind of review and go through. We're currently in kind of donor focused over dollars because I mean, take our giving day from last year. Last year we raised over $6 million. About 5 million of that was like 5 or 6 major gifts that came in, but that's all to say, like we had a lot of donor participation across the board give. I mean, I think I was looking it up before I joined. We had over 1,800 donors give $20 or less, which ended up accounting for about $36,000 Those donors gave to 251 different funds on the platform. So it's just all about, having that engagement, and that gamification and that fun atmosphere to participate on giving day. As Morgan mentioned, I think from the outset, it's vital to kind of like determine, when you're project planning, what the goal is, and what strategy you're going to take to achieve that goal. As you're going through the project planning process, I think it's important to have, a running list of lessons learned, things to debrief on, so you have that going already. And then, be sure to go through those at the end of the process. Yeah. I think, a couple of examples that like we learned is, we initially thought at one point in time that, I think having both a front-facing donor and dollar goal, and we ended up, as we reviewed everything, it was like, well, that might not be driving donors, so which is why we've kind of shifted to still having donor goals on our like college unit level pages, but not overall. But yeah, we just kind of reiterate and kind of like review our giving day just to make sure it's in line with strategy and kind of what makes the most sense for our goals.
Great. Thanks, Sean. MJ, I'm coming back to you. So Sean kind of touched on it, mentioning gamification. Can you tell us how, like, if you guys have any gamification tactics, whether it's challenge gifts, give early texts, those kind of things? Tell us how you use your data to make those up.
Yeah, so I can kind of wrap those up into one. Like Sean said, we kind of reevaluated, and this year overall, we'd really like to go for participation over, getting donors to give a bigger dollar amount. So our whole thing is like, if you could just get on the platform and give a gift of $5 or more, spread the word, whatever it is. And this year we had the idea, like Sean mentioned, to have all of our partnering campuses opt in to send a text the day before, with that variable data, sending them directly to their pages. And along with that, we are also going to be sending a text to people, our constituents who are in the South Dakotas and the states that we don't get as many gifts from, so that we can be sure to like push out the message about our 50 states challenge and how important it is to get a donor from every state just to come together on Giving Day so that we can unlock a greater impact with an additional challenge gift. We're also going to be sending a graduates of the last decade text again, the low performing states, the past 5 fiscal years, the second gift ask, and of course our biggest, the Giving Day, our past Giving Day donors. So all of that can be rolled into one about how we're gamifying all of our gamification, and how we're segmenting that to like push them towards their challenge gifts that apply to those donors.
Awesome. Thank you guys both for that. I'm gonna head into the chat now. I saw a couple of questions roll in. So Angie asked, have you found a way to handle one-to-many fields from your CRM to help with personalization? So for example, athletics, clubs, special interests. They haven't been able to interface these and can only do some manual imports. Any tips on using those fields to kind of help with your personalization?
So we at this point, our current model, we don't really get into athletics or certain student groups or anything like that. I'd love to expand that out. That said, we do bring in certain fields for like college and units. We work really closely with the senior directors of development to understand what their priorities for the Giving Day Giving Day will be. We task them very early on to like give us their top 3 priorities. We can of course pull the data, and we'll pull in specific ask amounts for their donors. We can pull in, have a certain segment for, say, College of Engineering donors, and we can tweak that text to make sure that like, hey, this is language pulling in things specifically for, say, College of Engineering or something like that, as opposed to, say, some of our other segments that we'll send to like annual giving donors.
That's great. maybe you guys can talk specifically now. Angie had another question. How many people do you typically send to in a texting campaign? Especially when given to some time sensitive events, specifically relating to Giving Day. Can you have any tips on getting those messages out in a timely fashion?
Yeah,
Uh,
so go ahead, MJ.
So I wanted to just say that our support team at Mongoose is always great about us sending them a send count, and then they will respond with kind of a timetable of how long it's going to take. Like I'm looking at ours right now, and we have an estimated, one segment's 4,000, another segment's 4,000, one segment is 13,000, and they send us back about how long it would take to send just a message and then to send it with a gift, which would be ideal. And so yeah, that's what we do. And we've been preparing, I don't know. I think I got these numbers before Christmas, if I had to guess. So yeah, always use your resources whenever you can.
Yeah, just adding to that, we kind of maximize and make use of all three inboxes, and kind of schedule it out. Last year we reached out to about 36,000 constituents throughout the day. We didn't double up on segments. So if you qualified for past Giving Day donors, you weren't going to be in the graduates of the last decade. And so we kind of made some hierarchy decisions of like, okay, where do we want to put these donors? And then we kind of just figured out which segment we're going to send at which times based on past giving as well, and when those donors have typically given in the past. So another thing that we were also tracking was when of those who gave, like when did they receive the text and when did they actually make the gift? It's not, of course, it's not always one-to-one. Everybody's working and there's so much going on. So it's not a linear chain, but it's also a really interesting thing to track as well.
Yes, we love to hear that. So another question I'm seeing from Emma is, do you text young grads? I know you guys mentioned that you text recent within the last decade, but have you seen a specific a text or what the most productive way to kind of get them involved, whether that's time or money or whatever it may be?
I think it's just engagement first. We, it's more engage first and then make the ask. Like I know for this year, like we just wanted to start a conversation with, hey, what of these 5 things, like what do you find the most intriguing? And then we pulled that data into our direct mail piece and some of our texting segments to figure out where we were going to slot these constituents within the Giving Day appeal.
MJ, anything to add?
I will say that for those of you who have an engagement center and can text your graduates of the last decade and ask them these questions, that's great. That's something that we were able to explore just once with an acquisition text. But yeah, it's really interesting to see how they respond to just asking them about their experience versus asking them for a gift.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's important to clarify. We're a Marcom team of 8, annual giving team of 2, and we don't have an engagement center. So there are absolutely some strategies and things that we would love to implement at some point in time, but we just don't have those.
We have another question. We have a time for a little bit more, so if you have questions, please put them in. But Ken is asking you guys if you're using the Razor's Edge NXT integration. Can you guys talk about if you have an integration with Cadence and kind of how you go ahead and use that, whether you're importing your segments or whatever?
We do not at this moment. That would be great. We have Blackbaud's CRM currently, so I'm assuming that there would be integration there as well. I'd love to explore that. We just made the switch from Ellucian Advanced to Blackbaud over the summer, and so we're just getting through all of the CRM migration things.
Great. Wes is also asking, when did the connection begin? Pre-grad, post-grad? When do you guys kind of like introduce yourselves, which I think is super important, and how you said not just kind of saying and popping into their inbox whenever you're looking for money, but kind of building that relationship. So like, when do you start that relationship, while they're still on campus, or is it when they officially like quote unquote leave?
So right now, we're set up. Our strategy at the foundation is only to reach out once they've graduated. We don't have any senior campaigns. I would love to do something similar, something like that at some point in time. Kind of build that philanthropic like knowledge base about what the LSU Foundation is and what we're all about and supporting scholarships, but we just don't have that piece in place right now. So we're reaching out primarily after graduation. And so, kind of looking at when the graduation date is kind of when we decide whether we're going to go engagement first versus an ask. And it's usually a couple of years before we make that initial ask.
Great.
Gary,
yeah, go
Gary,
ahead.
I could touch one base. So at San Diego State, when I was there, what we did on the athletic side was we obviously had a smaller group of student athletes. So we had about 500 student athletes that we were working on, obviously a smaller population of student segment. We obviously wouldn't solicit them while they were student athletes, but we did introduce the Aztec Club to them during their first year on campus onboarding that we did for athletics orientation. And then again, we had a senior student athlete program, like an outgoing Aztecs Going Pro program that we then had a presence at, that we'd be able to, one of our staff would come and reintroduce it, talk about what it meant, how their scholarship support that most of them were on was driven and created. And so we introduced that topic and that idea of, you just went through this experience as a student athlete that was provided by scholarship and philanthropic fund. So as you go out into the world 10, 15 years down the road, when you're ready and in a position where you might be able to, and you realize what the impact was that you had on your life that college had, now you can kind of think back. So while we didn't solicit while they were still in school, we did kind of plant the early seed of reintroduction of the root cause and the underlying mission of what the scholarship fund was about. And so that had some productivity and results later on down the road.
Yeah, being able to kind of give back to what was able to give you that experience is a great, powerful message to kind of give out to those to any students, not just student athletes too. So I do have one final question for MJ. Talk about your follow-up. So Giving Day has passed. What do you guys do to kind of say like thank you, or like we've received your gift and like we're looking forward to things like that? Can you kind of talk about that?
Yes, so we do have our director of communications and marketing and Sean work closely with our stewardship team on how we're going to follow up with donors afterwards, impact, storytelling, all that kind of stuff. But one thing that's really important is I just wanted to mention with the partnering campuses and with people who are assigned prospects, that their prospect manager always follows up with them with whatever they need after the initial text. But Sean, do you have anything to add on the stewardship piece?
So for this year, I mean, kind of standard, like we immediately after we'll have a thank you email going out, thanking all the donors. We're going to have a direct mail piece, two versions, one going to donors on Giving Day, one going to non-donors with the enticement of hopefully they'll join us next year. And then of course the standard acknowledgement process as well. But and we do, whenever we flip our platform over, we're going to start building out a kind of a impact page as well, where we can plug in some of our analytics that we kind of put together at the end and share internally, but then we can also share on the platform as well.
Great. I have one last question that we're going to squeeze in. You can make this as short as you want. But Jessica is asking, how many times on average are you texting people? Once a month, more? Talk about like, what is the line between overstepping and kind of just being proactive?
Yeah. So I can start this and MJ can fill in because she definitely knows a lot here. For us, I think it's a bandwidth issue more than anything else. With being Marcom Team 8, Annual Giving Team 2, it's really appeal by appeal. So it's actually more than once. It's less than, yeah, it's I would say 2 months to 3 months. Like it's appeal by appeal by the time we're reaching out. And we also keep in mind of like when the donor gave, when are we segmenting them out, how have they given in the past, and what have they responded to? And if it seems like they don't want to be contacted by text or like respond better in other forms of communication, then absolutely we're going to go that route.
Yes, I agree. We do go appeal by appeal. And like we mentioned earlier, we don't have an engagement center, but I think it also varies by the institution that you're at with what works best. Like at this most recent conference that we were at, some people were talking about their like email cadence, and it was so much different than ours because our donors haven't been hearing from us, once a week or twice a week or whatever it was. So really depends on the institution and what works best for you. But yeah, we go appeal by appeal for when people hear about us, and we are very cognizant of like when was their last gift, what other communications are they getting throughout the year, and things like that.
Great. I want to thank you guys so much for kind of sitting with me and all of us today. As we're at the end of time, I just have some quick plugs to kind of get through. As part of the Mongoose family, you guys all have access to not only Cadence Campus Live, but FYI for your institution as well. Each week, every Tuesday, Gil is busy. He's putting out episodes where he's sitting down with someone in the higher ed space talking about the hot topics. Last week, we dropped 2 episodes. One was overcoming FAFSA delays, which is obviously a hot topic right now, with Brad Barnett at James Madison University. And then our fearless leader, Dave Marshall, sat down with Gil and talked about blending AI with human experience in the universities as well. And then today, if you haven't seen it, hit your inbox yet. It was preparing the public health workforce for the next global pandemic with Perry Halkitis from Rutgers School of Public Health. So make sure you go and find those and watch those. And then you can mark your calendars now that you're registered for this Cadence Campus Live. You are registered for all of them. Here is our kind of upcoming schedule. March will probably actually be more of a FAFSA focused episode because we want to be able to be adaptive and changing with the times and what's going on. But you can kind of see what's going on and what will be coming up in the next couple months. If you are interested in participating or you want to kind of lend your expertise on any of these things, feel free to reach out to your pod or your favorite CSM of choice. But we're happy to help you guys out. But I do want to thank you, Sean and MJ and Morgan, the rest of the team in the back end. This wouldn't be possible without people like you. So I want to thank everyone for coming and taking a little bit of time out of their day and hanging out with us.